They called it a relic, a piece of forgotten metal buried beneath a mile of Martian ice. It had no inscriptions, no known origin, no power source. Just smooth, black alloy and impossible geometry. At first, it didn't even register on their instruments. But to the naked eye, it was unmistakably artificial, precision where nature never worked. That was enough. The excavation team had been 3 weeks into a 6-month survey. They weren't treasure hunters, just researchers underfunded and overstretched. Dr. Ellen Vargas led the team, geophysicist, pragmatist, and obsessed with anomalies. She spotted the signal first, a thermal discrepancy just subtle enough to question, but too regular to dismiss. Every 15 hours, a spike in temperature, exactly 0.25 degrees Celsius, centered around a fixed point in the permafrost. No one expected anything more than a buried geothermal vent, but they drilled anyway. Vargas insisted, and what they found stunned even the most skeptical. A monolith, nearly 6 meters tall, shaped like an elongated obelisk with no seams, no joints, and no wear, perfectly preserved. The engineers scanned for days. No response, no readings, no resonance. They tried every spectrum, infrared, magnetic, subatomic. Nothing, not until Kaito, the youngest member of the crew, accidentally dropped his thermal cutter. It landed against the relic, still running, and sparked. A flash, just a flicker, and suddenly the obelisk responded. First came the vibration, then a low-frequency hum, deep in the bones, not audible so much as felt. Ice cracked for 10 meters in every direction. The lights flickered, power systems glitched, but it wasn't hostile, just waking up. Vargas ordered an immediate lockdown. Containment protocols activated. No one left the perimeter. No one touched it again. But every member of that team stayed. Not because they were told, but because none of them could look away. Something had shifted. They knew it. Kaito analyzed the moment frame by frame. The cutter had been operating at a harmonic resonance close to 73 hertz. The relic responded to that. They ran simulations, replicated the frequency. The relic pulsed again. Not stronger, not louder, just confirmed. It was listening. A week passed. They mapped every millimeter of the surface. Still no inscription, no interface, until the second anomaly. Temperature spikes, now every 12 hours, increased in magnitude. Then, the monolith emitted a pulse, electromagnetic and sonic. It swept through the base like a shockwave. Systems rebooted, data corrupted, and embedded in the interference patterns. Not random, not natural, binary, repeating prime sequences. Vargas was the first to decode them. Not messages, but commands. Old ones, like system checks, like diagnostics, as if the relic was running through a startup routine after eons of silence. Then came the light. It started at the apex, a dim glow that grew in intensity over hours. Pale blue at first, then violet. Unnerving, but not threatening. The team debated evacuating. Vargas refused. This was what they came for. The impossible, the unexplainable. Data poured in. Heat signatures, magnetic anomalies, gravitational fluxes, all radiating from the obelisk. Then something else. Spatial distortion. Space bent around the object, just slightly. Enough to register. Enough to prove it was not just a machine. It was a gateway. Or a beacon. They fed it more harmonics. More frequency variations. Each time, the relic responded. Not with words. Not with images. But with shifts in its energy. It was learning. Or remembering. Maybe both. Then Kaito disappeared. He had been running a close-range scan, just a meter from the surface. The monitors showed him standing, then flickering, then gone. No scream, no alarm, just absence. Where he stood, the air shimmered for a moment longer, then silence. Vargas initiated emergency search protocols. Every square inch of facility swept. No sign, no breach, no trace. And then the relic dimmed. Power readings dropped. Vibration ceased. It had gone dormant again. The team broke. 2 scientists resigned on the spot. One left the dome screaming about interdimensional anomalies. The rest held on, barely. Vargas locked herself in the comms room for 17 hours, reviewing every frame of the disappearance. She didn't sleep. When she came out, she said only one thing: he's not dead. The others thought she cracked. But the evidence was there. Kaido's biochip still transmitting, somewhere beneath the surface. Not moving, not failing, just out of sync. They reinforced the lab, installed fail-safes. No one was allowed within 3 meters of the relic without tether lines. They resumed testing, carefully, cautiously, because if the relic was a machine, it was unlike anything ever conceived. And if it wasn't, then it was something older, something that waited, not buried, not forgotten, preserved. And humans, imperfect, reckless, curious humans, had awakened it. The second activation didn't come from the humans. It came from the relic itself. 72 hours after it had gone dark, it lit up again on its own. No contact, no scans, no interaction. A ripple of energy expanded from its surface, slow and controlled. It passed through every wall, every circuit, and every living body inside the facility. No damage, no burn, no heat. But each person felt in their own way, like pressure behind the eyes, a tingling in the fingertips, or a pulse in the chest that didn't match their heartbeat. This time, the relic didn't stop at light. Patterns emerged. Geometric shapes hovered around it, slowly rotating glyphs of unknown origin. 3-dimensional symbols made of pure energy, folding and unfolding like origami in space. They floated there, defying gravity, unaffected by air movement or temperature. No known language, no cipher could crack them, but they weren't random. They repeated, aligned, reacted to observation. The team moved into full containment mode. External comms were disabled on purpose. Vargas feared interference, or worse, eavesdropping. Whatever this relic was doing, it was sending out signals beyond the dome, and no one wanted Earth Command interrupting with an order to secure and retrieve. Juno, the system's engineer, was the first to see the correlation. The shapes mimicked orbital patterns, moons around a gas giant, planetary drifts, stellar precession. But not from our system. These were alien star maps, distances and vectors calibrated with precision down to the atom, and the patterns updated every few hours. Something, somewhere, was moving or watching. They ran simulations. Each map represented a location in deep space, uncharted, unreachable, but not empty. Radiation scans, long-range telescope data, and old deep space anomalies began to match. The relic wasn't just waking up. It was looking for something, and then it found it. An abrupt shift in the symbols. The floating patterns collapsed inward, forming a single projection, a rotating lattice of stars and gravitational paths. Right in the center, a pulsating dot. It was not Earth, but it was close. A system just outside the Oort cloud. Nothing of note had ever been found there. Until now, Vargas stared at the data for hours. The coordinates updated every second. The pulsating began to grow, not visually, but energetically. Each pulse stronger, faster. It was a countdown to what they didn't know. The team debated possibilities. Some said a beacon was being summoned. Others believed the relic was aligning itself for transport. But no one could deny one truth. The artifact had found its target, and something was responding. In the control bay, their instruments flickered. A new signal arrived, subtle, interwoven with the relic's frequency. A transmission, not human, not encrypted. It pulsed with structured code, dense, nonlinear, but repeating, like a call or a warning. Juno tried to isolate the source. It wasn't coming from the relic. It was coming to it, and it was getting closer. Vargas ordered the remaining crew to begin hardening systems. Shield the data cores. Encrypt every file. Triple the backups. Not because she feared the relic, but because they were no longer alone. The alien signal intensified. Instruments began to glitch. Static overwhelmed every audio channel. Lights flickered erratically. Every piece of technology, designed for Earth normal conditions, started to fail in unpredictable ways. But the relic stood unaffected, stable, unmoved. Then came the event horizon. Kaido's signal reappeared. It burst back onto their screens like a flare. Same ID, same vitals. But it wasn't under the ice. It was in the core of the relic, not metaphorically. Physically, every scan pointed to one impossible truth. He was inside it, not dead, not aged, perfectly preserved, as if no time had passed. The team scrambled. They initiated a low-frequency harmonic signal, hoping to reach him, trigger the same response that activated the relic before. Nothing happened until they matched the original 73 Hz tone again. Exact frequency, exact waveform. The relic pulsed, and a new pattern emerged in its projections. A DNA sequence. Human, Kaido's, followed by a second, then a third. The relic was cataloging them, not for harm, not for conquest, for recognition, identification, as if it were confirming them against a memory. And then, one final burst, a word, just one, not English, not alien, but every member of the team understood it. Found. It wasn't the humans who had discovered the relic. It had discovered them. They had 72 hours before the signal's source arrived. That was the estimate pulled from orbital data and the relic's recalibrated star maps. A vessel, massive, fast, and operating on a form of propulsion that bent known physics, was on a direct path toward Mars. It hadn't responded to any standard hails. It broadcasted no recognizable language. And yet, the relic kept pulsing, each beat synchronizing more perfectly with the incoming ship's trajectory. The Martian base transformed overnight. Science turned to defense. Engineers rewired sensor arrays into tracking beacons. Power was rerouted into containment fields. Juno led efforts to firewall every piece of data connected to the relic. Whatever was coming, it was connected to Kaido, to the activation, and to the recognition embedded within the relic's pulses. They had awakened something ancient. Now it was answering. But Vargas refused to abandon the base. Her reasoning wasn't pride. It was principle. We made first contact, she said. We finish it. We face it. The incoming vessel broke Mars' orbit with impossible precision. No entry burn, no thrusters. It simply slowed as if inertia itself had been rewritten. The object was obsidian black, smooth, devoid of any visible propulsion or markings. Like the relic, it bore the signature design far beyond anything human. The ship didn't land. It hovered silently above the excavation zone, casting a shadow a kilometer wide. Then it spoke, not in words, in pulses, the same rhythm the relic had been emitting since the first activation, the same harmonics that opened a doorway into another dimension. The relic responded in kind, projecting a beam of light into the sky, locking directly onto the vessel. The two were now linked. Suddenly, the relic's outer surface began to shift, not physically, but dimensionally. It unfolded. What once was solid became fluid light. An interface revealed itself. 3 concentric rings, each rotating independently, glowing with symbols and glyphs. They hovered, suspended in the air, waiting. Vargas stepped forward. No one stopped her. Her voice, calm and deliberate, instructed the AI systems to begin translating pattern frequencies. Within minutes, a rough interface emerged, color-coded, reactive, partially deciphered. She touched the first ring. The relic responded with a deep vibration. A sphere of light enveloped her, and for a moment, she stood motionless. Then, her voice echoed from the comms. It's a query system. It's asking us questions. She began to respond through simple sequences, mathematical truths, atomic constants, the golden ratio, Fibonacci spirals. With each answer, the relic pulsed in what could only be interpreted as approval. The outer rings began spinning faster. The vessel above grew brighter. Then the tone shifted. The queries became more complex. Philosophical, ethical, abstract. Vargas' input responses built on logic, empathy, survival. The relic paused, then shifted once more. A new interface appeared. A network of systems, each one tied to galactic coordinates. A catalog, a record. It showed civilizations, dead ones, abandoned systems, ruins. The Relic had been watching for a long time, studying, waiting, and humans were the first to respond correctly. Suddenly, alarms sounded. A signal spike surged through the base. The Relic's light dimmed. The vessel above began to descend, not aggressively, deliberately. An opening formed underneath the ship, silent and seamless. From it, a single object lowered, a pod, oval, metallic, covered in the same symbols as the Relic. It landed gently beside the monolith. The team approached cautiously, weapons drawn, though no one expected them to help. The pod opened. Kaito stepped out, alive, eyes wide, skin unscarred, his vitals unchanged. No hunger, no thirst, no time passed. He looked at them all, then to Vargas, and simply said, "They showed me everything." He explained, slowly, carefully. The Relic wasn't a machine. It was an observer, a test, left behind by an ancient race. Not to dominate, but to understand who would come next. The glyphs weren't language. They were filters, keys. Each response opened a new layer, tested a new dimension of sentience. Countless species had tried. All failed, some by force, others by fear. Most simply weren't curious enough to try. But humans? They touched the unknown. They asked questions. They refused to look away. That made them different. Kaito hadn't been taken. He'd been invited. His mind absorbed everything the Relic preserved. Histories of extinct civilizations, patterns of galactic rise and collapse, wars, discoveries, failures. Humanity had passed the test, not because of its power, but because of its questions. The Relic had now signaled its creators, or what remained of them, but no warship had come. No godlike entity stepped forward. The vessel above was empty, automated, a courier. Its job, deliver knowledge to those who were ready. The final interface appeared, an archive, blueprints, theories, energy systems beyond fusion, faster-than-light concepts encoded in fields rather than formulas. It was all there. The vessel would remain for 7 days. Then it would vanish, carrying the Relic to its next candidate. The humans had a choice: take the knowledge in advance or ignore it and return to comfort. Vargas chose. The team uploaded everything. Every byte. They documented the process, preserved the translations, encrypted the backups. But the real gift wasn't data. It was validation. Humanity had earned its place, not through strength, but through the refusal to stop asking why. The final day came without drama, without any visible shift in the sky, and yet everyone felt it. The vessel above remained suspended, motionless, but quietly thrumming with unreadable energy. The Relic stood beside it, still glowing, still open, but no longer broadcasting. Its work was done. The tests were complete, and the humans below were no longer subjects. They were inheritors. In the command hub, Vargas reviewed the last of the transfers. Terabytes of structured data, too advanced to decode instantly, too elegant to ignore. It wasn't a manual or a user guide. It was philosophy written in mathematics. Power generation theories woven into harmonic waveforms. Propulsion designs that reshaped space-time using fluid equations. All of it formatted not for conquest or control, but comprehension, designed to teach, to elevate. Earth Command had finally responded to the containment silence. A fleet was en route, ETA 4 days. Too late. By the time they arrived, the Relic would be gone. The Martian team would already hold the most valuable knowledge in human history. There would be questions, inquiries, politics. But none of that would matter, because humanity had been seen. The Relic began its shutdown sequence. It started slowly, the outer rings folding inward, the projections dimming. The last interface dissolved into the air like mist in sunlight. Then the artifact retracted into its original obelisk form, once again inert, seamless, and silent. Above, the vessel emitted one final pulse, a tone so deep it bypassed ears and resonated directly in the chest. Then, with no flames, no force, no fanfare, it ascended beyond the atmosphere beyond orbit, vanishing into deep space with impossible acceleration. The team stood in silence, watching until the sky was empty again. Back inside, Kaito explained what came next. The archive contained no weapons, no armies, no miracles. It offered only a path, a challenge to evolve, to become more than what they were, not just technologically, but consciously, emotionally, ethically. The Relic's creators had walked that path and disappeared, either transcended or destroyed by their own failings. They left relics not to guide others, but to test whether anyone could do better. Humans had passed the first step. Now came the harder part, proving they deserved what they had been given. Vargas compiled a final message to Earth Command. It was direct, factual, and brutally short. No embellishment, no politics, just the truth, the activation event, the arrival, the interaction, and the data. She ended it with a single line. This is the most important moment in human history. Handle it accordingly. And then she sent a copy, encrypted, fragmented, and buried deep within the Martian network, accessible only if things went wrong. Humanity might have earned its place among the stars, but it was still human. The crew made their own decisions. Some stayed on base, choosing to study. Others requested reassignment, unable to bear the weight of what they'd witnessed. Kaito remained with Vargas. They didn't speak much. They didn't need to. Weeks passed. The Earth fleet arrived, full of generals, bureaucrats, and scientists with too many questions and not enough imagination. They dissected the excavation zone, scanned for traces of alien tech, demanded access to the raw data, but they didn't find the relic. It was gone, completely, as if it had never existed. The only thing that remained was the knowledge, and knowledge was a weapon no one could uninvent. Rumors spread quickly. Conspiracies bloomed online, but the truth couldn't be contained. Eventually, the breakthrough started, quietly at first. Advances in clean energy, gravity manipulation experiments, communication systems that bypass traditional latency. Every new leap carried the fingerprint of something alien, but indistinct, unprovable. Just progress, they called it. Humanity changed. Slowly, irreversibly. The relic had not offered salvation. It had offered a mirror. What humans saw in it was not destiny, but potential. Fragile, flawed, miraculous potential. And maybe, somewhere out in the stars, another relic waited beneath ice or dust or ocean. Silent, patient, waiting for the next mind bold enough to ask questions, to refuse fear, to make contact. But for now, Earth turned its gaze upward, not with arrogance, with wonder, because in the void of space, something ancient had once looked back and said, "You are ready." And the universe, for the first time in a long time, answered back,